Hello, my name is Ira, and today I want to talk about the voice. Now, what voice could I be talking about? The voice, as in the voice. So, for those of you who also happen to be trans, a tad bit like yours truly, the voice is something that, it's a tad bit, interesting. So, when you're born male, you get to experience something called male puberty, testosterone. It's a terrible time. Terrible time when your body goes through changes that you didn't want to happen and then does it anyways. It's like getting discount sushi, except you don't like sushi and you didn't buy it. Okay, terrible example, because one, I love sushi, and two, I very much would buy the sushi. Anyways, puberty is terrible. And one of the terrible aspects of puberty, especially male puberty, is your voice starts like, I don't know, normal, prepubescent male voice, and then it drops, like it goes through the floor. Your voice becomes a lot deeper, which isn't an issue if you're cis. But when you actively hate most things masculine in yourself, then it becomes a bit of an issue. Yeah, not so much fun. So, I just want to make a bit of a video about how to make your voice not sound like you've been gargling ice chunks for the past year. So, let's get started. First off, my credentials. I'm trans. Those are most of my credentials. So, I have happened to go through male puberty. Not a fun time. Wasn't my favorite part of life. And, well, my voice became pretty deep as a result of it. So, yeah, those are most of my credentials. Would you like an example of what an actually, like, where I started from? Because, oh wow, Ira, that's great. I don't sound like you. So I'm, joke's on me. Freaking heck. So, let's see if I can pull something up. Let's see. Okay.
There was an idea. Stark knows this, called the Avengers Initiative. The idea was to bring together a group of remarkable people, see if they could become something more, see if they could work together when we needed them to fight the battles we never could.
So, that's, let's just call it my boy voice. The voice that, I could speak at if I didn't actively hate masculine parts of myself. Considering I don't sound like that most of the time, consider that my credentials. So, what is important to know about your voice so that you go from
Sounding like you could narrate as Morgan Freeman.
okay, that's taking it a bit far. That's a bit too far.
Sounding like you could be a professional trucker or a railroader, or maybe you grew up in the country.
To sounding like you don't have 50 pounds of muscle. Okay, my examples aren't working very well. So, first off, pitch is not everything. What do I mean by that? Well, simply put, pitch isn't everything. So, when was the last time you heard a girl that sounded like they were, on helium, and they, spoke like they were an inch tall, and like a little fairy with their voice super high? That's just not natural. I mean, you can try it. If you can get it to work, then, good for you. But most girls don't sound like their voice is 5 octaves higher than everyone else. No, it's a tad bit more of a gradient, I suppose you could say. Yup. So, pitch isn't everything. For example, there's some girls that have much deeper voices. For example, most of the women in my family have pretty deep voices. As in, I think my voice might actually be a little bit higher than most of theirs. As it is right now, that is. Yeah. But here's some important things to note. When men speak, they usually don't have very much variation in the frequencies or pitches of the words they use. Like, it's more monotone, if you want a number, and it's close to like 3 notes that men will typically speak with. So, what's an example? Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no one has gone before. Okay, admittedly, not that good of an example, but you get the idea. Men will typically speak more close to the same pitch, whereas women will have more of a, what's the word? More dynamic vocal range. So it'll go up and down on average, more like 5 notes per word or sentence. Something like that. I don't remember which. If you can look it up, then go and find it yourself. Anyways, pitch isn't everything. It's how you use the pitch. Next, my next note was dynamic notes. So just talked about that. So, you have to think about how sound is formed in your body. So, there's a handful of main parts and pieces that all work together. So you have your lungs. These generate the air that is kind of like forced out, and that's your body makes good vibrations in the air, and that becomes sound in your voice. Yeah, super fun stuffs. So it starts with your lungs, and then you have your throat. Lots of different aspects of your throat, like the size of your throat. Can you feel where your vocal cords are? Or your Adam's apple? Take your pick, potato, potato. For men, it's usually like on the deeper side, or like lower in their throat. Whereas for a woman, it's almost like pulled up more. It's also a lot smaller. So super fun stuffs. Yeah. So you have your throat, which, think about chamber harmonics. So how sound oscillates in a chamber. The larger the chamber, the lower the frequency. Smaller chamber, higher frequency. What's another example? If you've ever opened up the back of a piano, you'll notice all the different strings on the back. You can apply the same principle with a guitar, or most musical instruments. For a piano, those long, thick strings, think of those as man vocal cords. They're long, thick, bigger, there's more there, which means that they hit lower frequencies. The shorter, tighter, higher strings, those are more like women frequencies, because they're higher frequencies. So you want to try and get your voice to sort of follow that similar principle. Admittedly, using a woodwind instrument, or some sort of wind instrument as an example, would have been a better idea. Problem is, I don't know wind instruments hardly at all, so I wouldn't know anything about what I'm talking about. Yeah. So, you have your throat, then you have your mouth. In your mouth, there's multiple different parts that are important in your mouth. So, take the very back, like the back of your throat. If you were to open your mouth wide, then you can sort of see a bit of how it's shaped. You can change that. Like when you speak, parts of your mouth shape and reform to make different sounds. Next you have your tongue, which affects different frequency, smaller stuffs. Yeah. Then you have, believe it or not, your smile. So, I heard this in, I don't even remember what YouTube video it was, but it was a while back. And it was an analysis of the songs in The Little Mermaid. Bear with me. It'll come up later, eventually. Some of the songs in The Little Mermaid, and how in the original, you can almost hear the actress who's singing when she smiles when singing the notes. Which is important because it shows that how your mouth is shaped, like if you smile or stuffs, that changes the noises that you make. So, in my experience, having like more of like trying to speak with a smile, like with a smile that kind of pulls back, you're able to hit slightly higher notes because it changes how your mouth is shaped, which just makes it a bit easier, better. Yeah. Yeah. And then finally, your nose. Your nasal passageway also affects how harmonics generate in your entire upper respiratory stuffs. I have no idea how to get that one to change, and it's a constant source of irritation for me. Yeah, but think of all of those different parts when you're speaking. Your lungs, where your breath comes from, your throat, your mouth, and all the different parts that you're able to control and feel in them. So, these are all the different things you'll have to toy with, slightly change and move and adjust, trying to get more of a more feminine sound. Yeah. So, I have watched my decent fair share of YouTube videos trying to explain how the frick to do a girl voice. So, I'm going to be one among many who will say, it doesn't make any freaking sense. Like, it just doesn't make sense. So for me, it had to be a lot of just self-experimentation. Which is why I led by explaining, identifying different parts of how the voice is generated. Because those are important. Yeah. So, how would you actually do the crap and get it to work? This is the fun part, as in the not fun part, because it doesn't change very much very quickly. At least it didn't for me. Maybe you are able to get something better, but for me, it didn't change very fast. Let me take you into the time machine. Total Recall. Go back in time with me to yesteryear, to approximately 4 years ago, so 2020. I was a young me, or younger me, and hated my voice with a passion. Used as little as I could, and happy fun times. So, I started doing something. If I hated my voice, might as well try and change it. So, I'm going to speak down here, in this vocal range, I guess, just to try and explain what I did. So, I started right around here, right around this frequencies, and let me tell you, it is so weird talking down here, because I don't ever do it. I'll do it every once in a while, just as a party trick, because it's kind of funny, but I haven't actually spoken down here in a very long time. So I started down here, and there wasn't very much of a vocal range. It was terrible. It could go maybe up to here, and it could go all the way down. But, I always started doing was just raising it a little bit. Just a little bit at a time, because, well, I didn't have much of a vocal range, so there wasn't much I could do. And that's just how I spoke. I try and speak out loud to myself. I kind of talk to myself a lot, and so I just talk to myself in a slightly higher voice. when I finally became comfortable with that slightly higher, when it wasn't as difficult, I would go slightly higher. Just a little bit at a time. And after, like, it's been years. It's been literally years. And I'll admit, I haven't done a whole lot of really, really trying to get my voice higher. It's sort of been almost like a background process. I just try and speak a little bit in a higher pitch, a higher range, and also to, try and have more feminine word structures. Yeah, super fun. But over time, I was able to raise my voice to the point where you can hear it now. Which, is it perfect? No, it's not. It isn't. I would like it to be higher. I would like it to be a little bit... I still have like those sort of little crinkles. That's the best way I have to describe it. Like crinkles in my voice, where it has little areas where it keeps that deeper pitch, and it's kind of irritating. It still has those, and if I were to actually do a bit more research, it probably wouldn't be too difficult to figure out how to get rid of them. But I kind of have yet to do that. Tips and tricks from yours truly about how to try and get a little higher. So I discovered through something that's kind of unrelated, but somewhat similar. So, I don't remember if I was reading or listening or what it was, but when people learn a language, often they'll speak differently in that language than their native language. For instance, someone that speaks more formally in their native language may use more informal word choice in a second language, or vice versa, just because of the way they're taught. But also, another thing that is impacted is their enunciation, and how they shape and form their words. I expanded that to, if you can sort of change a lot of the way you talk when learning a new language, then use that same principle when trying to sound like a girl. Just, for me, I tried speaking in an accent. So, for me, a British accent was the one I chose, because for me it comes pretty naturally. For whatever reason, like all of growing up, it just sort of been there. Easy to slip into. So I just would try and... I could use the British accent to try and reach more, slightly higher frequencies. Just because I don't even know why. It just worked. And so I was able to get higher frequencies, which then, practicing those enough, I was able to, speak in my normal native accent, and just have it sort of, convert over. So, trying to speak in an accent could help. Okay, so, another thing that helped me was to have a phrase, or more than just a phrase, something specific I could speak, quote, repeat, to practice getting feminine pitches, trying to make it sound feminine. So, I have a few things that I used. So, actually, most of them are from church. It's kind of an important part of my life. So, I'll give those two examples. Sorry, just something caught in my throat. Those two examples, and then something not from church, if I can think of one. So first, the first vision of Joseph Smith. After I had retired to the place where I had previously designed to go, having looked around me and finding myself alone, I kneeled down and began to offer up the desires of my heart to God. I had scarcely done so when immediately I was seized upon by some power which entirely overcame me, and had such an astonishing influence over me as to bind my tongue so that I could not speak. Thick darkness gathered around me, and it seemed to me for a time as if I were doomed to sudden destruction. But, exerting all my powers to call upon God to deliver me out of the power of this enemy which has seized upon me, and at the very moment when I was ready to sink into despair and abandon myself to destruction, not to an imaginary ruin, but to the power of some actual being from the unseen world, which had such marvelous power as I had never before felt in any being. And just at this moment of great alarm, I saw a pillar of light exactly over my head, above the brightness of the sun, which descended gradually until it fell upon me. It no sooner appeared than I found myself delivered from the enemy which held me bound. When the light rested upon me, I saw two personages, whose brightness and glory defy all description, standing above me in the air. One of them spake unto me, calling me by name, and said, pointing to the other, "This is my beloved Son. Hear him." That is Joseph Smith's first prayer, the first vision. It's sort of like a small phrase that I was able to repeat and just practice with. Another thing that's not church-related. Admittedly, the Captain's Promise from Star Trek. Space. The Final Frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission: to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no one has gone before. Just something that you're able to repeat, that you're able to just keep saying and practicing with. For me, it works. So I hope it works for you. But beyond that, I don't have specific instructions, because voices, it's hard for me to describe what I do in a way that you can understand based on how your voice is. Like lungs, throat, even different parts of your throat. There's a lot. And for me, trying to understand exactly how to change it from all the YouTube videos didn't work. Like, it didn't, really. And it was so frustrating. But this has worked for me. Just slowly working to raise my voice. Going on that upper limit of my vocal range and just speaking there. Like, I don't just practice for a couple minutes in my room. This is how I talk to everyone.
Priority 1 minute.
Sorry, that was an alarm. But this is legitimately how I speak to everyone. Not just you, not just my friends, everyone. And it's natural. Speaking in a different, deeper voice, speaking in the boy voice, I haven't done that in a very long time, and it's very, very unnatural. Like, it's super weird. But yeah, I can do it. I did it. I'm still doing it. So, if you feel like your voice is too deep to make it change,
Just remember what my voice could sound like. Like, legitimately, this is what I used to sound like.
and, well, it's changed over time. So, have a bit of confidence. You can do it. I believe in you. Partly because I didn't believe in myself. I still have confidence issues, but I've proven that it can work. So, I hope that at least someone listening or watching this has found something useful, because well, growing up, I really needed someone that could explain it in a way that I could understand. Is this a way I could understand? Maybe, maybe not. I'm not sure. Probably not. But I just hope that it helps a little bit. Anyways, I hope you enjoy it. See you. Bye.